Welcome to another episode of Independence for Technology with Christopher Cooley. Today, we're going to be looking at some of the different things that Christopher uses in his everyday life. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Independence for Technology, in which we're talking with Christopher Cooley. He's a tech ambassador in the state of Ohio that helps individuals who have major disabilities function and live independently. Christopher, it's always a pleasure talking with you.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's first talk about you. It's my understanding that you are visually impaired, and I understand that you rely upon technology for everyday living. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up? How did you come to know that you were severely disabled?
Well, my name is Christopher Cooley, and I grew up in Portsmouth, Ohio. And growing up, I was born hearing impaired, and growing up in a mainstream school was hard. Not understanding what the teachers are saying and doing, and I had a lot of struggles in school growing up, and there was at one time. I went to go get my hearing checked, and the doctor gave me some hearing aids. And when I put those hearing aids on, I was like scared because those hearing aids gave me a lot of noise that I didn't hear without them. And I remember my first time with my hearing aids. I sat down on my grandma's porch up in the hills. She lived back up in the hills, and they had farm animals, and I sit there and I heard all these sounds, and my grandma telling me that's a squirrel, that's a bird, and that is a deer and a raccoon. Those were sounds that I was really like, wow, I never heard these before, until I got my hearing aids. And so I still, in school, I grew up I got in high school and had some issues of not fitting in. I felt like I wasn't fitting in, and I one day decided, I'm not going back to school. How can I do it? How can I do it? And it was a struggle. To me, it was a struggle. And I came up with an idea. Because I'm hearing impaired and I could read lips pretty well, I went home and I told my mom, I can't hear no more. I'm totally deaf. And I don't want to go to school because I just wasn't able to hear. And reading my mom's lips, saying, okay, not knowing that my mom outsmarted me and made a doctor's appointment and took me to the doctor. And the doctor tested me, and he said, there's a lot more going on than just you not being able to hear anything at all. And I was like, yeah, I understand that, but that's what I was thinking. I understand that, but I'm still going to play it like I can't hear you. And so the doctor went in and did a phone test, and he ratted me out to my mom and said, there's more going on than he he's telling you, because he can hear. The bone test came back stating that he had some hearing. And I was like, he ratted me out. And so the doctor and my mom sent me down and they're like, what's going on? I was like, I I don't understand my speech impairment. I always thought the speech therapist was making fun of me. She'd tell me to say a word, and then she would tell me what I sounded like by saying that word that way. She wanted me to do it her way, and kept making fun of me. And I didn't realize as a kid that she was there to help me. But I thought that she was just making fun. And later in life, I realized that she was trying to help me and not making fun.
I would imagine that throughout your school, you may have felt separate from the other group because of your hearing disability, and that really played on a major part in your feelings.
It did. It did. It played a big part of my feelings. And at that time, I didn't know anything about depression or anxiety or anything. But I didn't understand what was going on. And, in reading, when I go to my reading classes, I would, we would have to read together. And I did not like that idea that idea, um, because every time I would read out loud to my friends in the class, um, I couldn't say my words very clearly, and some words would come out as a bad word. And so when I would say those bad words, everybody would laugh, and I didn't understand why they would laugh. But having a great teacher in um, in middle school really really got me and helped me through it. And so I got in high school, and I was 16 years old, was able to drive. Yay, I'm able to drive. I'm able to get my license. I could do, and I always loved working with kids at the hospital, working with kids at the juvenile centers. And at age 16, I had my license. I was going out volunteering to those places and working with the kids. And at age 17, I um, I was told by my eye doctor that I couldn't drive anymore because I was legally blind. And I knew at that time there was something going on with my eyes because I saw a mom and a baby walking across the street, and I didn't really see them. Um, and as soon as I did see them, I slammed on my brakes, and you could not stick a toothpick between us. And um, and I knew I had to get my eye checked, and that's when the doctor told me I was legally blind. I couldn't drive no more, and I said, "Well, I drove here, so how am I going to get home?" He said, "I'll give you the permission to go home, but you can't go no more." And I remember going home and slamming the door and telling my mom, "I'm going to my room. I'm done. I give up. I give up." And I sat down on my bed and I said, "I'm not going nowhere. You could bring me my food. You could bring me whatever I need to my room, because I'm not leaving my room no more." Because I thought my independence was was gone. I thought my independence was gone. And at that time I was scared of dogs and things like that. And I didn't want to call pilot dogs in Columbus, Ohio, and ask them for a dog, because I was terrified. But I sat down on my bed and I looked out the window and I saw the trees. The trees were high enough that I was able to see them out of my window. The wind blowing the leaves around on the trees. And I also, the little bit of hearing that I do have, I heard the kids out there playing. And I was sitting there thinking, do I really want to sit here and give all that up? Because I really like going out there watching the kids play. I like looking at the trees and the flowers. Do I really want to give that up, or do I want to do something about it? So I gave myself a chance, and I said, no matter I'm scared of dogs or not, I'm going to call Pilot Dogs in Columbus, Ohio, and ask them to help me. And I did. I called them, and they came. They came down to Portsmouth, Ohio. They did a Juno walk where they had the harness, and the trainer was holding on to one part of the harness, and I had to hold on to the other part of the harness. And they would walk 2 or 3 blocks to see how well I would do. And, um, he came back and he said, well, I think you're a good candidate. Well, I have to bring it to the board and discuss it with them. And so they called me a week later and they said, Chris, you're accepted. When do you want to come? And I said, anytime. And so my mom took me up on a Sunday. And I remember sitting down in the little room that they give you with the bed and a chair. And the trainer were so awesome. They welcomed me in and put me in that room and told me to get settled in and they would come back to check on me. I sit there and I cry because my mom left me. My mom left me somewhere I didn't know where I was really. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I knew this school had all these dogs and I thought, oh my God, they're going to be barking at me. They're going to be growling at me, jumping up on me. And I didn't want that. And I started crying and I got myself together. And the trainer came back and he said, Chris, I would like to take you out into our meeting room where we all sit and talk and have great conversations and watch TV. And so I went out there and there were no dogs around. And I was so happy. No dogs, no dogs, yay. And so Monday, we did another Juno walk. And Juno walks is where they will find out how fast you walk and how is your mobility. And then they match the dog to your mobility and how fast you walk. They'll match you with the dog. And so Tuesday, they said, everybody go back to your room and we're going to bring in all the dogs for you to meet them. You're going to get to meet your dog. And I was so scared. I locked myself in the bathroom thinking I kept hearing these dogs running down the hallway, excited, and you can hear them shake and going to each room, meeting their individuals that they're going to be working with. And it came to my time, my dog. The trainer came in, Steve, he came in and he said, Chris, you got to come out, meet your dog. There was no way I was doing that. So I ended up coming out because he said he would take the dog back out and try it again. And he asked me to sit down and, just sit there, be quiet for a minute. And so he brought the dog back in. And that dog walked in. This was my first dog. He walked in slow, really gentle. He didn't shake. He wasn't panting or growling or anything. He didn't jump up on me. He walked over, laid his head on my lap, looked up at me. And the thought that went through my head that he was looking at me saying, I'm here when you're ready. I'm here when you're ready. And when the trainer came back and said, well, Chris, you got to put the harness on your dog so we can take a walk. And I remember thinking, oh man, I have to touch the dog. I have to put my arms around this dog and touch it. And so I went ahead and did it, even though I was scared. and I didn't like it, but I did it. And on my first walk out the door, down the road, we went around 2 blocks, and I got to thinking, oh my God, I did not lose my independence. I gained my independence. This dog is allowing me to see things that I probably would never see, or do things that I would never do. And so from there on, I I um I went back home to Portsmouth, and then went to Hell. Then I got to go to Helen Keller National Center for the Deaf Blind, and there I learned communication, independence. I was so excited about it with my dog there with me, and being in New York, it's terrifying when you don't have family or friends there. And then I knew I had my guide dog with me to guide me. And I started learning how to live on my own and how to communicate by sign language. A lot of people use sign language in the hand at Helen Keller, and learn how to be able to tell what kind of you're saying by holding onto your neck a little bit. You can feel that vibration. Many people have watched the movies, and also watched, read the book about Helen Keller. And she done many things and great things and opened many doors for so many people like myself to be independent. I learned technology. I learned how to do Braille and how to cook a meal for myself. Um, so many things I learned. And then I came back to Ohio, and I moved to Columbus, Ohio, to go to college and be able to do things independently. And so from there, I I started making friends, and these friends that I thought I was making, I thought they were good friends, but they were just there to take advantage of me. And later on, they started taking advantage, and I wasn't really seeing that. And I had a good friend, Shirley. She came and told me, Chris, you have to get away from this situation because your your true friend wants to see you be okay, wants to see you be safe, and we don't want you to be involved in this mess that they're taking advantage and things. And so I took that opportunity to get a hold of my family back at Portsmouth, and I moved back to Portsmouth and was able to get away from it. And I stayed with my mom for a while, and I wanted to get back out on my own. And I thought, I don't want, if I go back out on my own, then these people that were taking advantage, that, you know, don't want, that are not a good friend, might find me and come back. And so I called my SSA at Saturday County Board of DD and for development disabilities. And I talked to him, and he said, Chris, we can find you a place. And so I did. I found me a place, and I talked to my landlord about it, and he said, well, at, at first he didn't want to because he didn't think that I would be able to keep up with it because of my disability. And I said, give me a chance to show you I can. And so I've been here for a little over 6 years now. And my SSA told me about a program called Safe and Home. And Safe and Home is a remote support team. They're just like a home health aide, but they are more remote support. And they can help me do things in my home, help me watch what's going on outside, And Safe and Home had came in and showed me different things. They showed me this tablet that I'm going to show, this tablet, and it has a remote support app on it, where if I need something or if I just want to talk, they're there as a friend and talk to me. If I need help cooking, I need help doing turning on the laundry and doing my laundry. There, I could push that button and they'll be able to help me with that. And also, they can also look at my cameras and make sure that everything's safe and keep me safe. And it's all about me. How can we help you? It's not, oh, we're here, we're going to take over. It's not like that. It's a friend, and they are a great friend and great help and resource of people living independent and helping me stay independent. They also have this little pendant. You would think that it was emergency button. Well, it can be, but it also can be just talking to me as a friend. I could push that button and somebody will just call and talk to me. If I do need emergency contact, they'll contact my people on the list and help me with that. And there's so many other low tech. And I call my service dog, my guide dog, low tech because it provides something for me. It helps me in my community. It guides me. It works for me. And also, I have a lot of other low tech things that I can use, like this little magnifier. It runs by batteries. Turn it on, I can run it by batteries. And this little cool little thing, the calculator. These are items.
2, 5 plus 3 equal to 8.
I can use those items as a low tech to help me stay independent. I don't have to rely on somebody else all the time. And I also have these here that I will show. A lot of times I found these at the store and these are really cool. And sometimes if I get stressed out and you can tell they pop out, I could grab, even though it's a measuring cup, and it also has braille on the end of it. You can find that. You can find these on Amazon or a website called MaxiAid. And these little measuring cups are really helpful. You know, when you're cooking, when I'm cooking and stuff, or if I just get and I want something to play with, it's like a fidget toy. I can play with it. And then I also have this little item. This little item is a little thing. It's called liquid filler. Liquid filler. I can stick it on the side of my cup like that, and I can fill up my cup with water or anything. And it'll, if you can hear that, and it vibrates. Even though if you can't hear it, it'll vibrate and it'll allow me to know my cup is full.
And, we're going to be looking at some of the other devices in further episodes. But one of the questions that I have, in your early childhood, how were you treated in school with the different acquaintances or friends, in grade school and junior high? Did they accept you or did they ridicule you?
Well, I mean, I've had some friends in school. I'll call them friends. They didn't understand. They did not understand my situation. So there's times that I would say things, they would make fun of me because I said it the wrong way, or they would laugh because that was a word that it's a bad word. You get in trouble for saying it. And I didn't mean to say it because that's how it sounded to me. And, growing up, I had a lot of good friends, but then I also had those that didn't understand. I say they didn't understand because they were kids like me, and most of the kids don't understand that, and that's why I always say it's important to interact your kids with other kids, because your kids with the multiple disabilities, the other kids need to learn how to be able to react with them, and understand that even though I may sound and look different, I'm still the same as they are.
Did you feel out of place with God?
When I went legally blind, I did, thinking, God, I was doing a great work and helping kids, in the juvenile centers, in the hospitals, and now I'm legally blind and I lost everything I had. But now when I saw, when I got my first dog, that I didn't lose my independence, I didn't lose anything, it brought me back to knowing that God gave me something that really helps me with the rest of my life.
We're talking with Christopher Cooley. He's a tech ambassador with the state of Ohio.